On a sweltering June afternoon in Texas, inside a small home on Maple Drive, Rebecca, a single mom, was preparing dinner for her son when the doorbell rang. She had no idea that moment would change her life forever. Standing at the door was a young woman, maybe in her 20s, eyes cold and expressionless. "I'm Emily," she said. "I'm here to see your husband, Mark." Rebecca froze. Mark wasn't her husband, just a recent boyfriend, and the father of the baby growing inside her. But what really shocked her was this. Mark had vanished 3 weeks ago. No goodbye. No note. "He's been living with me for the past 2 years, Emily went on, her voice trembling with fury. "And I just found out he secretly moved in here with you." Rebecca felt the floor fall beneath her feet. She had no clue she was just a pawn in Mark's double life. Emily showed her the proof. Texts, photos, even hotel receipts. It was undeniable. But Emily wasn't just here to vent. She had a plan. "I want to work with you," she said, her eyes sharp with intent. "Let's teach Mark a lesson, one he'll never forget." 2 women betrayed, now unlikely allies. A revenge scheme was brewing, and Mark, he'd never see it coming. The plan was born that very night as Emily and Rebecca sat across from each other in the dim glow of the kitchen light. They weren't friends. They weren't enemies. They were 2 women betrayed by the same man, Mark. Emily pulled out a small notebook, listing every detail, where Mark usually went, his work hours, even other women he might be seeing. "He has a pattern," she said. "Same lies, same tricks." Rebecca listened closely. Every word Emily spoke cut deep, not just because of the truth about Mark, but because she had trusted him blindly. "We'll make him think he's in control," Emily said, her voice like ice. "But in reality, he's just a pawn." The plan kicked off with Rebecca pretending she knew nothing. She kept texting Mark like before, telling him she missed him, wanted to see him, and that the baby needed its father. Mark, just as they predicted, responded almost immediately. "I'm sorry. I've been confused. I still love you." He wrote, the same sweet lies as always. Meanwhile, Emily played the forgiving girlfriend. She invited Mark to her apartment for the weekend, said she wanted a fresh start. Both women, simultaneously, kept Mark tangled in a web of lies, and he had no idea that every move he made was being tracked. Saturday came. Rebecca messaged Mark, saying she needed to talk urgently about the pregnancy. She picked a familiar cafe halfway between their homes, where Emily had secretly installed a camera the day before. When Mark arrived, Rebecca hit record. She asked the questions Emily had helped her craft. "Do you still love me? Are you seeing someone else?" And the final blow, "Why did you leave me when you knew I was pregnant?" Mark, with his fake innocence, denied everything. He even shed a tear. But right then, Emily walked into the cafe. "What about me?" she demanded, voice sharp. "What about the last 2 years of my life, Mark?" Mark froze, speechless. The 2 women stared at him, no longer in pain, just pure contempt. Rebecca stood up, phone in hand. "We've got everything. Videos, texts, even that recording. You played with fire, and now you're getting burned." Mark walked out without a word. And Rebecca and Emily? They sat down, sipping coffee like 2 partners who had just pulled off the perfect sting. A week after the dramatic cafe showdown, Emily and Rebecca thought it was over. But Mark wasn't the type to go down without a fight. He started texting them again, but this time there was no sugarcoating. "You really think you can humiliate me like that? You're both going to pay." Rebecca panicked. She feared he might leak the private photos they once exchanged. Emily tried to stay calm, but even she couldn't hide the concern in her eyes. "We need one final move," Emily said. "Something that'll end this for good." They went to a lawyer, an old friend of Emily's named Lisa. After hearing the whole story and reviewing the evidence, Lisa nodded. "We can press charges. Harassment, invasion of privacy. We've got a case." As Lisa prepped the case, Mark launched another dirty tactic, spreading vicious rumors. He called Emily a gold digger and labeled Rebecca a pathological liar. But this time, they were ready. Emily posted a video online, telling the entire story with cold, hard evidence. The video went viral within hours, drawing thousands of shares and comments. Rebecca emailed Mark's workplace, attaching the threatening messages and audio recording. Within 3 days, Mark was suspended pending investigation. Mark snapped. He showed up at Emily's house at midnight, but her security cameras caught everything. Police were called, and he was arrested for trespassing and making threats. At the hearing, Mark denied all charges, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge issued a restraining order and mandated he attend anger management classes. Walking out of the courthouse, Rebecca turned to Emily with a faint smile. "We won." Emily nodded, but her tone was firm. No one really wins in something like this, but at least he won't get to destroy another woman. The story didn't end with happiness. It ended with justice. And sometimes that's all you can ask for after betrayal. 6 months after the trial, Emily and Rebecca's lives had completely changed. Mark was gone, vanished from their world, but the echoes of what happened still lingered. Emily moved to Austin, Texas, and started fresh with a new job at a tech startup. She rented a small apartment and decorated it in warm tones, as if trying to scrub away the memories. Rebecca stayed in Denver, her hometown, and opened a small bakery on the corner of 6th and Main. Every morning, she woke up early to knead dough, and for the first time in years, she felt peace. But the past doesn't let go that easily. One night, Emily got an anonymous email. "I know who you are. I know what happened. The truth never sleeps." Her heart dropped. She'd changed her phone number, moved, deleted all her social media. How could anyone still know? She called Rebecca immediately. On the other end, Rebecca whispered, "I just got a letter too. No name, just one thing inside. An old photo of Mark." They both knew. This wasn't over. Someone was trying to dig it all back up. They agreed to meet at a small cafe in Santa Fe, where no one knew them. As soon as they sat down, Rebecca said, "If Mark really is back, we need to stay one step ahead." But what they didn't expect was this. It wasn't Mark behind the threats. It was his sister, Sarah. She believed Emily and Rebecca had destroyed her brother's life. Sarah had secretly recovered files from Mark's old laptop. She didn't want revenge through violence. She wanted to make those women live in fear forever. But Emily had learned how to fight back. She traced the IP address from the email. It led to Albuquerque. She and Rebecca went there to confront Sarah face to face. "You're angry at the wrong people," Emily said, eyes locked on Sarah. "Mark wasn't a victim. You're protecting an abuser." Sarah froze. No one had ever said it to her so plainly. Rebecca laid a folder on the table, copies of the court evidence. No shouting, just silence. Sarah picked up the file and walked away. Back at the car, Rebecca said quietly, "She might come back." Emily stared straight ahead. "And we'll be ready. No one gets to control our lives again." 1 year after confronting Sarah, Emily and Rebecca thought they had finally reclaimed peace. But then something unimaginable happened. Mark came back. Not from the shadows. Not anonymously. Publicly. An article went viral. Falsely accused entrepreneur returns with charity for abuse survivors. Photos of Mark smiling, shaking hands on stage. Emily froze when she saw that face on her screen. He didn't just come back. He reinvented himself as a hero. Rebecca trembled, her heart pounding. "We can't let him keep fooling the world like this," she whispered. They reached out to their old lawyer, Mr. Harris, the man who helped expose Mark back then. But the case was closed. Without new evidence, the law couldn't do anything. So they investigated themselves. Emily created a fake account, infiltrated Mark's support groups, recording everything he said. Rebecca followed his event schedules, watching for cracks in the story. Finally, they found someone. Jessica, Mark's ex-girlfriend from New Orleans. She agreed to meet them, visibly anxious. "I thought I was the only one," Jessica said. "He once choked me because I wouldn't hand over my phone. He threatened to ruin my job if I told anyone." Emily went still. Rebecca teared up. They knew this was the missing piece. A witness, a truth no one could deny. With Jessica's consent, they recorded her story, added old text messages and photos of bruises. They sent everything to an investigative journalist named Rachel, known for uncovering buried truths. 3 weeks later, the expose dropped. The fake hero, the disturbing truth about Mark Callahan. Millions of views. Sponsors pulled out. Mark's foundation was under investigation. Mark held a press conference, trying to explain, but the evidence was overwhelming. The media turned on him. His followers began to question everything. For the first time in years, Emily and Rebecca breathed easy. Not because Mark was punished, but because the truth was finally seen. On the balcony of her apartment, Emily raised her wine glass, watching the city lights. We didn't win because we got revenge. We won because fear doesn't control us anymore. Rebecca smiled softly. We're not victims anymore. We're survivors. Just when Emily thought everything was finally over, an anonymous envelope showed up in her mailbox. No return address. Just one line. You don't know the whole truth. Emily held the paper, hands trembling. She immediately called Rebecca. You think someone's still watching us? Rebecca asked. Emily didn't answer. She stared out her Brooklyn apartment window into the shadows. The next day, an email arrived from an encrypted address. Attached was an audio file. Mark's voice? But this time, different. He was speaking to a woman, not Sarah, not Jessica. Everything's still going according to plan, he asked. If they find out you're the one leaking info, we're both screwed. Emily and Rebecca froze. There was a third person, someone in between. But for what purpose? Rebecca thought about Jessica. She couldn't be the mole, or could she? Emily replayed the audio and sent it to journalist Rachel. A day later, Rachel replied, that female voice matches someone from the old case. She used to be Mark's assistant back in Chicago. They found her identity, Lisa Monroe, who vanished after Mark was exposed. But now, she was living in Portland, Oregon, under a different name. Emily flew to Portland. At a small coffee shop, she met Lisa. The woman looked exhausted, eyes darting. You sent the recording, didn't you? Emily asked directly. Lisa was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. I couldn't live with it anymore, she said. I used to love Mark, but watching him hurt others to save himself, I knew I had to stop it. Lisa had helped Mark hide critical documents, including proof that he embezzled money from his foundation. She was the one who fed info to Jessica and secretly steered Emily toward the truth. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Lisa said. I just want to make sure he never hurts anyone again. Emily looked at her, then softly said, You did the right thing. Maybe this is a new beginning for both of us. Back in New York, Emily sent all the documents Lisa provided to the FBI. A federal investigation was reopened. And this time, no one was escaping. Online, a message spread like wildfire. The end doesn't come when the villain falls, but when the truth is acknowledged. 6 months later, Mark was sentenced to 25 years in prison after the federal investigation. The media dubbed it New York's most brutal betrayal. Emily moved to Austin, Texas, starting fresh at a nonprofit. She didn't trust as easily as before, but at least life was peaceful again. One Friday evening, she received an unmarked package. Inside, a USB drive and a photo. Lisa, tied up and gagged in a dark room. Emily gasped. She plugged the USB into her laptop. A video played. Mark in prison uniform sitting in front of the camera. Hello, Emily, he smirked coldly. You thought it was over? You know who helped me get this video out? He continued. The person you trust most. She's sitting right next to me, but you never saw it coming. The camera panned. Rebecca. But her eyes weren't scared like before. They were cold. Unfamiliar. She didn't just help me. She orchestrated the whole thing, Mark said. Emily froze. Her heartbeat thundered. Rebecca? The sister she trusted like family was the final traitor. This isn't a game, Mark whispered. It's a chessboard, and I've always been 3 moves ahead. The video ended. Screen went black. Emily sat frozen, knowing this wasn't over.